Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear second year students at the Faculty of Commerce, Alexandria University, the English section. This is the 7th lecture in the course. In this lecture, we will start talking about a new dimension of organizational behavior at the individual level, which is motivation. In this chapter, we'll see the definition of motivation, the components of motivation, and the different theories that try to explain motivation. Actually, if you look around any workplace, you may find some people work harder than others. Some students, they may study harder than others. Why is that? This is the difference between the two groups is due to the level of motivation. So in this chapter, we'll talk about motivation in more. We'll start with the definition of motivation. What is motivation? Motivation is the processes that account for an individual's intensity, direction, and persistence of effort toward attaining a goal. It means at the first place there should be a goal the individual tries to attain. As you look at if you look at the definition, you may find here 3 dimensions of motivation in red color. The intensity, direction, and persistence. Look at here, you'll see how these factors interact with each other in order to determine the level of individual motivation. The direction, intensity, and the persistence interact with each other in order to determine, the level of individual motivation. We'll define each one of these key elements of motivation, and we'll see how these factors affect the individual motivation. The first element is the intensity. Intensity is concerned with how hard a person tries. In the definition, I said that if you look around, you may find some people work harder than others. This is the intensity. Those who exert more effort, in order to achieve the goal, those people are motivated. If you look at any workplace, you may find some people are lazy. They do nothing until somebody else give them orders or instructions to do, and other people have the initiative to start the work and to exert more effort in order to achieve goals. That is the intensity of effort. So some people exert more effort than others. This is the element most of us focus when we talk about motivation. But the intensity is not enough. There is another key element here, which is the direction. You may work hard, you may study hard, but the point is in which direction. Do you spend the effort and the time in the right direction to reach your goals? Some students may study 3-4 hours a day, but this is not the required, not the appropriate way to achieve the goal. Direction is the orientation that benefits the organization, the orientation that benefits the individual, maybe. Okay? So those who have high level of motivation, first, they exert more effort. Second, they know in which direction the effort should be directed. And the third dimension here is the persistence. It is a measure of how long a person can maintain his or her effort. Motivated individuals stay with a task long enough to achieve their goals. This is very important element here. Those who have high level of motivation, they do not quit early. In the way they achieve the goals, they may find some obstacles, some barriers, some difficulties. Those who are highly motivated, they overcome the barriers, the difficulties, the obstacles in order to reach the goal. They do not quit early, But those who have very low level of motivation, once they face a problem, they quit. They say, I cannot do that. I cannot continue, you know. As you see here, from the definition, the intensity, direction, and the persistence interact with each other in order to determine the level of individual motivation. Those who have high level of motivation, they exert more effort in the right direction, and they keep exerting the effort until they reach the goal. This is the main definition, or the basic definition of motivation. Look at this figure. This figure describes the determinants of job performance. In the center of the figure, you may find in a red square, the job performance. Job performance is an outcome of the interaction among three variables: the willingness to perform, opportunity to perform, and capacity to perform. What is motivation here? What is motivation in these three variables? Yes, it is the willingness to perform. The willingness to perform is the desire to perform, and this is the motivational factor. But motivation is not enough. You need two more elements: the capacity to perform, the skills, the abilities, the know-how to perform, and the opportunity to perform, And let us look at the arrows first. Look at the direction of the arrows among these three dimensions. You'll find, each arrow has a two-way, direction. It means there is an interaction relationship among these three variables in order to determine the level of performance. I give an example here. Assume that the performance is to drive a car. What do you need in order to drive a car? Three things. The first is the desire, the willingness to drive the car, the desire to drive a car. But this is not enough. You need also the capacity to perform, which is the skills to drive a car, the ability to drive the car. And the third factor is the opportunity to perform, which is you need a car. The car here is the opportunity. So in order for the driving behavior to take place, you need the desire, the capacity, and the opportunity, which is the car. If one of these factors is zero, is absent, the performance will be zero. This is why we said it is an interaction relationship. In interaction relationship, if one of the factors is zero, then the end result will be zero. Assume you don't have the desire to drive the car, and you know how to drive the car, and there is a car. If you don't have the desire, the performance will not take place. Assume that you have the desire to drive the car, and you know how to drive the car, but there is no car at the first place, then the behavior will not take place. You have the desire, there is a car, but you don't know how to drive the car. Then also the result will be zero performance. You will not drive a car. So in order for driving the car as a performance, as a behavior to take place, you need the three factors: the desire, the capacity, the know-how, and the opportunity to perform. These are the three determinants of the individual performance or job performance, regardless of what the task is. Actually, the starting point here is the individual. So motivation comes from the individual. Most managers must motivate a diverse and unpredictable group of people. In chapter 3, the individual differences, you studied that people are different in terms of age, gender, personality traits, attitude, performance, and many other factors. In the workplace, managers have diverse people, different types of people. According to this diversity results in different behavior patterns that are in some manner related to needs and goals. So for managers to motivate the diverse group of people, they need to understand the people needs and also people goals. Based on the understanding of people needs and goals, managers should decide how to motivate each one, and we have here many theories that they will explain the motivational process, and the managers should have an implicit theory when they deal with people, when they try to motivate people based on the understanding of the theories. And we'll start here with an overview of the motivation theories. Basically, motivational theories can be divided into two groups. The first group called the content theories of motivation. The second group called the process theories of motivation. The content theories of motivation focus on the factors within the individual, mainly needs and motives. So they focus on factors within the individual that energize, direct, sustain, and stop behavior. And we'll talk about many theories that try to explain motivation based on factors within the individual. The other group of theories called the process theories of motivation. They said, okay, not necessarily that motivation comes from within the individual. Sometimes it comes from outside factors. So these theories try to describe and analyze how the behavior is energized, directed, sustained, and stopped. The word how tells us it is a process. They will describe how the motivation started, continue until it is ended. It takes time. The individual may go through different stages, different steps until he or she is motivated or demotivated. So we'll talk about these two groups of theories. Now let us start with the first group of theories, which is the content theories of motivation. Here are some names you have to remember. The first is Abraham Maslow. He introduced a theory called the 5-level need hierarchy of motivation. Later on, Alderfer modified Maslow's theory and introduced a new theory called the 3 levels of the 3-level hierarchy theory, and he called it ERG. We'll see what the ERG stands for. So instead of talking about 5 levels of needs, Alderfer talked about 3 levels of needs, and we'll see the differences. Henry Harrisburg introduced a new theory called the 2-factor theories. He divided in any workplace the factors into 2 groups. Some of these factors are called hygiene factors. They protect people from being dissatisfied, and others are called motivators or motivating factors, that these people make people satisfied. We'll see these 2 groups of theories. This is why we call it the 2-factor theory. David McClelland talked about 3 learned needs acquired from the environment, from the culture, and he mainly talked about 3 different motives that direct people behavior. We'll explain each one of these theories in more details. Let us start with the Maslow's, the need of hierarchy theory. According to Maslow, human beings have different types of, have 5 different levels of needs, and they try to satisfy these needs in a certain order, In order to explain this, I remember a movie called The Castaway. It is starring Tom Hanks. If you remember this movie, this is very good example of the 5 different human needs according to Maslow. In the movie Castaway, there is an employee in the FedEx company. Are you familiar with the FedEx company? Yes, most of you know the what the FedEx is doing. They transfer, packages and parcels from one place to another. Tom Hanks was an employee in this company, and up to the sudden, he was in aircraft, and the aircraft has been crashed in, an island. It was a jungle, and he found himself in the jungle alone, and he believed that he will stay in this place for a while. If you remember in the movie, what was the first thing he did in this place? Assume that you are in the jungle alone, and what is the first thing you will look for? Actually, what he did, he looked in the jungle among the trees in order to find something to eat, something to drink, until he found a coconut tree, and he cut it into pieces, and he found there is a liquid in it, delicious liquid in it, and then he said, I'm not gonna die here because this is the food I need in order to survive. And this is what Abraham Maslow called the physiological needs. The physiological needs are the basic needs people should satisfy in order to keep alive, in order to survive, like food, drink, air, and the relief of any pain, These are the basic needs. Then what he did next, after he found that this coconut tree and this coconut fruit, what he did next? He said that, the dark may come in a minute, and he need to protect himself from the wild animals, maybe in the jungle, and maybe from the bad weather. So he looked around until he found a cave between two trees, and said that, okay, at night I will get into this. At night I will get into this cave in order to protect myself from the animals or from the bad weather. This is what Abraham Maslow called the safety and security. So after the individual satisfied the physiological need, a higher need may come to exist, which is the need for safety and security. Then what he did next, if you remember the movie, he looked around in order to find a human being to communicate with, to interact with. This is why he climbed up to the hill and he shouted, somebody, anybody, no, and he didn't find anybody there. And this is why he created a character. He found one of the parcels he is carrying, this American football, and this is a very well known name called the Wilson. This is Wilson, a very well known sport tools. And he found a marker and he draws eyes and nose to the ball, and he called it Wilson, and he started to communicate with Wilson, to tell stories, to get angry with Wilson, to throw it away, to apologize to Wilson. This is the need for communication, and this is what Abraham Maslow called the belongingness, social, and the love need. So after the satisfaction of the safety and security need, people usually, a human being usually, need to interact with others, and this is the human being as a social entity. We need somebody to talk with. We need somebody to share, emotions, talk, feelings, whatever it is. So this is the third group of needs. Maslow called it the social need. Then what happened next? He found himself for a while in the jungle, and he want to respect himself at least. This is why he tried to build a boat. He found some of the parts of the aircraft and collected some wood from the jungle, and he tried to find a boat in order to get out of this place. He failed many times, but at the end he built this kind of boat in order to take him away from the jungle. And this is what Abraham Maslow called the self-esteem, self-respect. And finally, at the top of the pyramids, there is a need called the self-actualization. The person ability to and the person desire to, practice any hobby, to fulfill himself, to use his, free time for something he enjoys, This is the self-fulfillment need. Look at the arrow here and the direction of the red arrow on the left-hand side of the slide. It means we start from the physiological needs, and once we satisfy a reasonable amount of it, a higher need come to exist, which is the safety and security, then the social needs, self-esteem and self-actualization. Maslow assumed Maslow introduced many key assumptions, many key points about how people satisfy these needs. Okay, and 5 needs we already talked about. The physiological needs: need for food, drink, shelter, and relief from pain, safety and security. Not only the current or immediate feeling of security, also the future. This is why people may leave private organizations to work for public organization, because public organizations guarantee lifetime employment. So people need to feel secure not only today but also in the future. And the third group, the social, love, need for friendship, for interaction, for affiliation, for love. This is a very important human need. Then the self-esteem, self-respect. You need to respect yourself and also to gain respect from others. And finally, the self-actualization, the need to fulfill oneself by making maximum use of abilities, skills, and potential. There are many key points in Maslow's theory. The first point is, a person attempts to satisfy the basic needs before directing behavior towards satisfying the upper level needs. What are the basic needs and what are the upper level needs? The basic needs are the first 2 levels, the physiological and the safety and security. This is called the basic needs. Okay, the upper needs starts from the social needs, self-esteem and self-actualization. So we have 2 basic needs and 3 upper level needs: the social needs, self-esteem and self-actualization. One important key point here is a satisfied need ceases to motivate. What does it mean? The satisfied need stops motivating people. Then what motivates people? What motivates people is the unsatisfied needs. Once you satisfy a need, this need will stop motivating the individual, will stop directing behavior. Assume that you feel hungry. Hungry is a need, as a human need, right? You feel hungry. Once you feel hungry, you will do what? You will look for food. Once you eat, and eat a reasonable amount of it, then the hunger will no longer motivates your behavior. Another need: after you eat, you may remember your friends and start to make phone calls, but you will not make phone calls if you are hungry, because the need for food will direct your behavior. But once you satisfy this need, then you will not look for more food. You already satisfied a reasonable amount of it, so you will look for something else to do. This is why the satisfied need stops motivating people. Unsatisfied needs can cause frustration, conflict, and stress. So the unsatisfied needs usually do that. They cause frustration, imbalance, conflict, and distress. This is why the person tries to satisfy these needs in order to remove these negative, consequences, the frustration, conflict, and stress. So people have a need to grow and develop and will strive constantly to move up the hierarchy in terms of need satisfaction. As a human being, we keep satisfying our needs, and we keep moving up until we reach the upper level, the highest level, which is the need for self-actualization. According to Maslow, he assumed that those who are at the upper level, self-actualization, are more healthy mentally and physically than those who are still in the satisfying the basic need or safety and security. So the mental health, physical health depends on the level of satisfaction. This is the Maslow's theory of motivation. Later on, Alderfer came and modified the theory, Maslow's theory, a little bit. And instead of talking about 5 different levels of needs, Alderfer talked about only 3 different levels of needs, which are existence, relatedness, and growth. He called it ERG. E stands for, the first initial in the word existence, the letter E. R stands for relatedness. G stands for growth. What are these 3 needs, and what are the differences between Maslow and Alderfer? The first need, according to Alderfer, is the need for existence. Needs satisfied by such factors as food, air, water, pay, and working conditions. Is it new? No. This is mainly the first 2 levels in Maslow's theory, the physiological needs and safety and security. So what Alderfer did is he combined the first 2 levels in Maslow theory in one group. He called it existence. It is a combination of the need for the physiological needs and the needs and social safety and security needs. Relatedness, needs satisfied by meaningful social and interpersonal relationships. This is the same as the social needs according to Maslow, the third level of needs in Maslow's theory, the social belongingness and love. This is the same here in Alderfer's theory. The third level of need in Alderfer is the need for growth. Needs satisfied by an individual making creative or productive contributions. And this is also a combination of the upper 2 levels in Maslow's theory, the self-esteem and the self-actualization. Then, if this is the difference between Maslow and Alderfer, and instead of talking about 5 levels of needs, he talked about 3 levels of needs, and we call it a new theory. No, this is not enough. Actually, the difference between Maslow and Alderfer also on how people move through the different sets of needs. We mentioned that according to Maslow, people usually do it step by step. They will not go up one level unless they satisfy a reasonable amount of the previous one. When Alderfer combined the first 2 levels together, what does it mean? He combined the physiological needs and safety and security. What does it mean? It means an individual can be busy, satisfying these 2 levels together, because this is one group in Alderfer, the existence needs, also with the same meaning. So the individual can be busy, satisfying both the self-esteem and self-actualization together. It is not necessarily to do it step by step. But this is not the only difference between Alderfer and Maslow at the same time. Okay? This is the main points and the RG theory. The third content theory of motivation is the Herzberg's 2-factor theory. Herzberg, assumed that in any workplace there are 2 different factors. These factors have different names. Don't get confused. He called it dissatisfiers, satisfiers, and also another title, another name, hygiene, motivators, and the third one is intrinsic, extrinsic, factors. It means the dissatisfiers are hygiene and also extrinsic, and the satisfiers are also motivators and intrinsic. So these are different titles, and I will explain it, in more details. So according to the theory, there are two different factors, some extrinsic factors, and as I mentioned, these are hygiene and dissatisfiers, like the job conditions and the job context, environment, surroundings, and these factors cause dissatisfaction if not present. If these factors absent, then they will cause dissatisfaction. There is another group of factors called intrinsic, and as I said, intrinsic are motivators and satisfiers, like the job content, the activities, the tasks the individual performs in the workplace. When present, they build a strong level of motivation. This is why you call them motivators. So according to this, we have some factors. When they exist, they prevent dissatisfaction. Other groups of factors, when they exist, they cause satisfaction. Keep this in mind. There are the two different groups of factors according to Henry Harrisburg. The first group called the extrinsic conditions, and as I said, they are dissatisfiers and hygiene. Like what? Like salary, job security, working conditions, status, company procedures and policies, and the interpersonal relationship. What does it mean? According to the theory, if these factors exist in any workplace, they will prevent dissatisfaction. Take, for example, salary. Salary, one of the factors that prevent dissatisfaction. Assume you are an employee in any company, and you worked for a month, you exerted the required effort, you attended, the workplace regularly during the entire month. At the end of the month, the company says, okay, we appreciate what you did during this month, but actually we are very sorry we don't have money to pay you this month. And we promise that next month we will double your salary. Are you going to be happy? You expected to get paid at the end of the month, and the company said, we are sorry, there is no money to pay you in this month. Are you going to be happy? You will be upset. You will be dissatisfied. But if you get paid at the end of the month, the dissatisfaction will go away. The dissatisfaction will disappear. But this may not make you happy. This may not make you satisfied. But here, getting paid at the end of the month will eliminate job dissatisfaction. Okay? Like the working conditions. If you go to your workplace and you find the light, air, and the material, the equipment, the machines you need in order to finish your work. This is normal. The absence of these factors will make you upset. If you go to your workplace and there is no light, there is no computer, there is no, tools, you will get dissatisfied. But the existence, the availability of these tools, will prevent dissatisfaction. But this will not make you happy. People will not congratulate you because you get paid at the end of the month, or because your office has a light in it, But the existence of these factors only will eliminate dissatisfaction. Look at the other group, the intrinsic factors. They are related to the job itself. And these are satisfiers and also motivators. Like what? Achievement. If you do something good, for the organization and they achieve your goal, are you going to be happy? As a student, if you have a goal, to get excellent in the organization behavior course, and you did, Are you going to be happy because you achieved your goals? Yes, for sure. The achievement makes people happy. Recognition. If the manager recognizes, the employee effort and performance, and, he said in public, thank you, Mr. XYZ, because you did such and such, so the recognition here makes people happy. Also responsibility. If we assign more responsibility to somebody, it means we trust this person's abilities and skills. So the person will be happy. Advancement. Also the work itself, the content. If you do what you like and like what you want, most likely you will be satisfied. So this is why if you assign the task, the person or the employee prefers, most likely this person will be happy, like the possibility of growth and work advancement. So these factors, when they exist in any workplace, in any job, these factors make people happy. This is why you call it the two-factor theory. One group of factors responsible of dissatisfaction. When they exist, they prevent dissatisfaction. When they are absent, people will be dissatisfied. Other factors, when they exist, they make people happy. They make people satisfied. Okay? Why is that? Look at the difference between Harrisburg and the traditional view of the feeling of satisfaction. Before Harrisburg, this is the traditional view of satisfaction. Before Harrisburg, people believed that satisfaction and dissatisfaction is the same feeling. They are different in the degree, in the level, but they are not different in the type itself. So this is one kind of feelings. When this feeling is reduced to minimum, it is dissatisfaction. When it is increased to maximum, it is job satisfaction. One kind of feeling, the minimum of it is dissatisfaction, the maximum of it is positive satisfaction. Harrisburg said, no, this is not true. Actually, we have two different kinds of feelings. The first feeling is positive, which is satisfaction. The satisfaction may be reduced to zero. We say no satisfaction. No satisfaction. Pay attention, I didn't say dissatisfaction. I said no satisfaction. No satisfaction means the satisfaction is zero, but it is not negative dissatisfaction. So the minimum feeling, the minimum amount of it is no satisfaction. The maximum amount produces job satisfaction. And this is the responsibility of the motivators, the satisfiers, or the motivating factors. Then there is another kind of feeling, which is the negative feeling, called dissatisfaction. The dissatisfaction can be reduced to zero. No dissatisfaction. But it doesn't mean that people are happy. But they are not dissatisfied. So it is reduced to zero, no job dissatisfaction. And it can be, increased to maximum, and this will be high job dissatisfaction. And, the hygiene factors are responsible of this, the absence or the presence of this kind of negative feelings, and this is the difference between Harrisburg's theory and the traditional job satisfaction theory. Keep this in mind. This is why he talked about two different factors. One of the group responsible of satisfaction and as a result motivation. The other group called hygiene, and it is responsible of dissatisfaction and as a result demotivation. Okay? This is the third group, the content theories of motivation. The fourth one and the last content theory of motivation is the David McClelland. The David McClelland theory. He assumed that people have three different motives. What is a motive? The motive is a driving force The motive is a driving force. For example, if there is a crime took place somewhere, the investigator usually searching for what? Looking for what? The investigator usually looking for those who have the motive, those who have an internal drive to commit this crime or this murder, for example. According to David McClelland, as a human being, here we're talking organizational behavior. In any organization, people have three different motives. He called it learned needs, and the first one is the need for achievement. The second called it the need for affiliation, and the third one is the need for power. According to David McClelland, when a need is strong in a person, whatever the need is, its effect is to motivate the person to use behavior that leads to its satisfaction. For example, if a student has high need for achievement, so this high need for achievement, will drive the students to study hard until he reaches, the goals, which is to succeed and to obtain high grades. So these are the three different types of needs, of learned needs or motives, according to David McClelland. We'll talk about each one in more. The first is the need for achievement. The need for achievement, when it exists, it drives the people to work hard. It also makes people, or makes the individual to try to finish the work in not less than perfection. These people are perfection seekers. These people have certain characteristics. The first characteristic is they like responsibility for solving problems. If the person has high need for achievement, they usually take the responsibility to solve, organizational problems. They voluntarily try to solve organizational problems, work problems, even the problems between people. These people, or those who have high need for achievement, they like to achieve good results. Second, they have the tendency to set moderate achievement goals and they take calculated risk. These people usually like the moderate difficulty goals, moderate difficulty assignment, and they also like to take calculated risk. What does it mean? What is the meaning of calculated risk? If I give you three goals, the first goal is very easy. There is a probability 95% to succeed. A second goal is 50% probability to succeed, and the third one is 25% probability to succeed. Which one you will select? Those who have high need for achievement, they usually select the one in the middle, the 50% probability of success. They will avoid the easy goals. If the probability is 95%, 90% probability of success, these goals are very easy. They do not attract those who have high need for achievement. And also they will avoid the extremely difficult goal. If they know in advance that there is a probability of 5% or 25%, they will succeed, they will avoid this. Why? Because if they fail, they will be very frustrated. So in order to avoid frustration, they take the moderate difficulty goals, the goals that there is a probability 50% to succeed. Actually, this is not an easy goal. If the probability to succeed is 50%, what does it mean? It means that the probability of failure also 50%. It means this is difficult goals. But we do not call it difficult, we call it challenging goals. So these people usually prefer the challenging goals, and this is what we call the calculated risk. I know in advance there is 50% probability to succeed. Also, they desire feedback on performance. Once they finish a task, they ask for feedback. Why? Why is this? In order to improve. Next time, they will improve their performance, If we tell them this is, you achieved this point, and these are the positive aspects in your behavior and these are the negative aspects of your performance, so next time they will increase the positive aspects of performance and decrease or overcome or eliminate the negative aspects of performance. So they need concurrent, immediate feedback in order to improve their performance better and better and better. These are the characteristics of those who have high need for achievement. The second motive called the need for power, and also those who have high need for power, they have certain characteristics. First, they concentrate on obtaining and exercising power and authority. These people enjoy being in charge. Give them a title, give them, authority, give them power to tell people what to do and what not to do. Once the person is hired as a manager, as a boss, as a supervisor, as a foreman, whatever the level is, as the CEO, these people will be very happy when they have authority, when they have power to tell people what to do and what not to do, to give people orders, commands, and instructions. This is the first characteristic. Also, they are concerned with influencing others and winning argument. These people like to argue, and they usually win the argument. Why? Because they have persuasion skills, and they enjoy winning the argument with others. They enjoy influencing others. But keep in mind that the last point here is power can be positive or negative. Power can be positive if the individual uses the power he has for the sake of the group, for the sake of the department, or for the sake of the entire organization. This is positive power. But if the individual uses his power for self-interest, for the sake of the self, this is called negative power. So those who have power, not necessarily to use it for the sake of the organization, sometimes they use it for self-interest, and this is called the negative power. The third, according to David McClelland, is the need for affiliation. And those people, they like others, they build a friendship, they like interacting with others, they have many friends. And there are also three characteristics for those who have high need for affiliation. The first is the desire for social interaction. They like being with people, among people, interacting with people. This is why managers with high need for or high motive for affiliation, they usually use the open door policy. Their office door is usually open and they welcome employees at any time. They usually offer drink and food, keep talking with people in work related issues and also in non-work related issues. These people usually like social interaction. Also, they're concerned about the quality of personal relationships, not the quantity. They may have many friends, but they like the friends that they have very high quality friendship. They are concerned with the quality of friendship, not the quantity. They may have very few number of people, as very close friends, but also they have good relationship with many other people as well. Social relationship takes precedence over task accomplishment. What does it mean? They give friendship, they give social relationship priority over even the work goals or the task accomplishment. For example, if the manager has high level of need for affiliation and one of his employees came to his office asking for a leave because he has, say, a sick son, the typical answer for this manager is, please go, leave whatever you are doing now and go see your son, and come back after you finish, after you make sure this kid is very well, doing well, But the manager who doesn't have the need for affiliation, he may reply differently. He may respond differently. He may say, okay, finish your task first and go home. These people never say, finish the task first. They give humanities, they give social relationship priority more than even achieving the organization goals or finishing the organization tasks. This is the last theory, the last content theory of motivation. In the next lecture,